Hello, beautiful soul, and welcome back to The Voice Within. Have you ever asked yourself what shaped the version of you that you call today you? Did you ever ask yourself, why am I the way I am? Why am I doing the things I'm doing? How did I learn it? Who teach me? How did I accept it? If we take 1+1 logic, it would be my parents teach me to do like this, my school teach me this, my friends, my grandparents, the environment that I grew up in teach me the certain things. But this is not what I'm actually talking about. I'm talking about behavior that you keep repeating and maybe it's bothering you, maybe it's creating you frictions in life. And some of those behaviors, it is inherited. So if we take example of how do we manage disagreements or conflicts, a lot of us learn through observing our own parents, how did they manage their own conflicts. And of course, over the time, we adapted to something different. We learned through our life experience that some of the things that our parents did cannot apply to our life. Some of the things we don't agree with them. Some of the things we did it better or worse. My question about why are you the way you are is referring to why do you over-explain? Why do you people please? Why do you over-function? Why do you over-sacrifice? Why do you have difficulties with setting boundaries? Why do you have difficulties for showing your spine? If you pay attention closely, most probably these things nobody directly teach you, but you kind of adapted to it. You were most probably trained into that behavior over and over through your lifetime. Every time when you over-explained, every time when sacrificing gave you reward, every time when the people-pleasing gave you reward, every time when you didn't set boundary and then you got some peace on the surface, your nervous system, you learned that that kind of behavior is functioning and is giving you benefit. So in that case, we cannot completely say that we inherited that behavior. We can say more, that kind of behavior gave us reward, gave us result. We adopted to it through our life. And we usually say, this is who I am. This is how I handle conflicts. This is how I behave in the situations where I'm not right or wrong. This is how I handle difficult conversation. This is how am I in setting or not setting boundaries. But like I said, what if this is not who we are? What if this is actually adaptations to the life we lived before, to our past? And the thing is, as long as this kind of behavior is giving us reward, we basically don't have a reason to change it. But after some time, after we grown up, become big woman, we reach the point where we start seeing that this kind of behavior is not really giving us reward, actually is draining us more. And then we come to that place of discomfort where we see that something we do is creating us problems, but it seems like we cannot stop, we cannot change it. We keep repeating to ourselves, this is who I am, but at the same time, we feel that sting of self-betrayal. We feel that we are constantly doing something which is not helping us, but it seems like we cannot stop doing it. We all keep repeating behavior which was giving us reward. But once we start feeling discomfort of our own behavior, then that behavior is not anymore reward, it's self-betrayal. We are doing something against ourselves, maybe because we don't know how to change it, maybe because we think this is who we are, this is what is the part of our identity, and maybe because we are afraid to change anything. Or for example, when we say, we are a responsible person. We can say we are responsible, we are finishing our obligations, our tasks, people can rely on us. If that is giving us comfort, that is giving us feeling of I finished things, I accomplished things. However, inside of that, I am responsible should always be the space where we can be sometimes irresponsible. If we are responsible for ourselves, because that is our value, that is something which is giving us comfort, regardless of how does it affect other people, how they see it, perceive it, do they notice it, do they give us value when we do it, then that behavior is part of us. It's our standard, it's our value. But if we are responsible and then we are expecting people to notice our responsibility, and if they don't, we feel hurted, then it's not our standard or value. It's not something we do for ourselves. It is behavior which gave us reward in our lifetime, maybe in our childhood, and we keep repeating it. That kind of behavior gave us validation that we are craving. So whenever the people don't notice it, we feel used. Or if we say, I am easygoing person, I can sit with anybody, I am very adaptable to the people and to situations. That can be true if that kind of behavior is free from validation. But if that kind of behavior is giving us discomfort, then in that case, it's not anymore something which is part of us. It's part of self-betrayal. Because in our lifetime, it was easier to be easygoing than to challenge the people. So we end up to be type of person who is easygoing with everybody, accepts everything, is calm and chill, and everybody feels comfortable around them. However, consequences of that kind of behavior is often the person who is not able actually to set boundaries, or to say it better, person who learned through their lifetime that it's easier to adapt to others instead of standing in their own spine. Or if we say, I am independent person, again, as long as that independency is part of our value, our standards, regardless of validation of others, then it's behavior which is giving us reward regardless of the people around us. But if we are independent, but at the same time we feel unsupported and we blame the people for not supporting us, then in that case, we are searching for some hidden reward in the people, like we are asking them to read our mind. Our identity was shaped by the way we grow up, by our parents, by our environment, by the people who were around us growing up. However, our identity was shaped also by what was useful, what was rewarded, what was expected, what was shamed. Basically, what gave us results, and we kept repeating it. But at some point, like I said, that kind of behavior starts to costing us, because we are not children anymore waiting for validation from the parents. We are adults. And there is a time in our life where we have to ask ourselves, is this who I am, or is this just the role I learned to play and perform? Identity is built through repetition. And in this situation, when we are trying to change a little bit who we are, it becomes a little bit irrelevant what shaped us or who shaped us. It becomes important in understanding ourselves. However, to shape our identity for the life stage we are in, it's useful to ask ourselves, what did I have to become to be acceptable? What did I have to become to belong? What did I have to accept to be part of? What did I have to do to be loved? What did I learn to hide? What did I learn to go quiet about? What part of me was too much for my environment? What did people praise in me? What was considered power and strength? What was considered love? What did I call peace? What did I call conflict? What did I call disagreement? This is where we give ourselves permission to understand our blueprint. Because every behavior on the surface looks like just behavior, just something we do, just who we are. But underneath, there is a whole net of the reasons we are repeating that behavior. And if we don't question it, where does it coming from? Why am I the way I am? We keep repeating the same thing and complain that we don't get the same reward like we used to get when we were younger. If we take one simple example, let's say something which is coming to my mind right now. Let's say when you were younger, if preparing some nice food for your parents gave you love, gave you reward, gave you acceptance, it's completely understandable that you start doing that same thing in your adulthood. So now let me be clear, there is nothing wrong in preparing the food for your parents. I do it all the time. But if you start doing that from the place of, if I don't do this, I will not be accepted. If you are over functioning, if you're giving more than realistically in that moment you can do with your life, with your children, with your circumstances, then becomes self-betrayal. We cannot give to a people what we don't have. If our cup is empty, we cannot pour into them. Overfunctioning, for example, happens when we start giving beyond our limits. And then it doesn't feel anymore like love. It starts to feel like obligation. And obligation is killing the love. It's killing that free giving, which should come with, I give this because I'm overflowed with love. I give this because I can give this and it doesn't cost me. I give this because I love you and I want to show you my love in this way. And of course, there is life situation, especially if we're talking about the family, where we give the things sometimes beyond our capacity because that's life. Sometimes we have to do the things even when we are tired. If we take example of motherhood, all the mothers are sacrificing often beyond what they can do in the moment. But if that kind of behavior is becoming our blueprint, something that we function as per day to day, then it becomes damaging for us. So sometimes pushing beyond our limits because of the context, because of the life circumstances is completely understandable. But doing that same thing continuously to gain approval, love, or belonging is something which is putting us in position of feeling emotional cost of our behavior. And if we don't get that reward for the behavior we keep repeating, we feel sting of the self-betrayal, that feeling of I do so much and the people are not giving back to me as much as I give to them. We think that who we are and who we become is something that it cannot be changed. Some part of us, they cannot truly be changed. This is who we are. This is what our environment, our parents, God put it inside of us. But at the same time, behavior can be changed. But we cannot change what we never question. Because logically, if we have certain behavior that we are not happy with and it's costing us, the first question is, why do I do what I do? Once we understand why, then we can do and go into how to change this. And at the beginning, when we decide to change some of our reflexes, some of our automatic behavior, our adaptations, it feels hard, of course, because we are doing something different than entire life. We are doing something first time. Everything done first time is hard. But behavior is changed through repetition. The more we push ourselves, the more we repeat that same behavior that we are trying to embody, it's becoming automatic thing. So if you, let's say, identify yourself like a woman who sacrifices a lot, you can decide in this moment to be a woman who doesn't sacrifice that much. If you say for yourself, I am always like this, I always sacrifice for the people I love. If you say to yourself right now, I am the woman who protects herself and doesn't sacrifice for others beyond her limit, you can feel that discomfort, like you are trying to sit in somebody else's skin. That behavior is still not embodied inside of you. To feel comfortable in that sentence, we need repetition. So we need to adapt to the different kind of behavior which is serving us for the life we are living right now. Then after some time, we say to ourselves, I used to be the woman who used to sacrifice a lot. I am not that woman anymore. I think that usually we are afraid to change who we are because any change in our behavior brings certain consequences in our environment. People recognize us like a certain person who does certain things. Now suddenly we are trying to change something and become somebody else in behavior. And this is not really a comfortable place. People sometimes question. They feel discomfort of our change. But as long as we know why are we doing that certain thing, it is easier. Because then it becomes less about others and what others think or wish. It becomes about what is useful for us. The identity that you have right now is not some evil part of you. It is identity that protected you once. You repeated that same behavior which gave you reward for the reason, for protection, for love, for belonging. But it is useful to ask ourselves, does that same behavior serves me right now in this reality I'm living in or no? And if that same behavior doesn't serve you anymore, if you notice that you are betraying yourself, then follow that discomfort, follow that signal inside of you which is telling you, whispering inside of you, this doesn't feel right, this doesn't feel okay. I gave more than I wanted to give. I went quiet about something. That feeling of, I wish I did something different in this moment. That signal, that discomfort inside of you is the road to different behavior. Your body is sending you a message and saying, this what we do doesn't feel in alignment anymore with who we are right now or who we want to become. When you feel that discomfort, question it. Why am I feeling discomfort? Where does this behavior coming from? What did I protected before with this behavior? And what would I actually like to do in this moment? We often think that we need more knowledge, we need more listening, we need to be ready and prepared to make some changes in our life. But the fact is, we have all ingredients inside of ourselves. Our body discomfort, our nervous system is constantly telling us what feels right, what doesn't feel right. And instead of gathering the knowledge and trying to be super ready to make some huge change, we need to start to follow that signal and listening ourselves more and aligning our behavior with that signal. Because as soon as you start to change that behavior with the signal you are feeling inside of yourself, you are coming in alignment. What you feel is represented in your behavior day to day. Suddenly, discomfort disappears and suddenly we feel more peaceful. It takes just one time for you to feel that feeling of reward. I did something for myself. I followed my signal, my discomfort, and I changed the behavior to protect myself in this life reality. You start feeling like that dopamine hit, like I want to do this again. This feels so good. I have protected myself. I have chosen something different for myself, which is better for me right now. From that place, everything becomes easier and every change of behavior starts to make sense. It is okay to change. It is okay to outgrow cups that we don't fit anymore. It is okay to change behavior. It is okay to change our mind. It is okay to don't tolerate anymore certain things. It is okay to become somebody else in behavior. We don't have to stay the same our entire life. We can grow, we can adapt, we can change. And at the same time, even behavior that you are changing right now or you are trying to change, it doesn't have to mean necessarily that that same behavior will be okay in 10 years. Because in 10 years, life will change again. Maybe your kids are small now and you are adapting your behavior to the reality you live in. But once your children are teenagers, naturally your behavior will have to change to match reality you're living in. If we are constantly resisting the change, then we are forcing ourselves to live in constant discomfort. If we allow ourselves flexibility and allow ourselves to grow and change, then any life circumstances become manageable. If you do it now, especially if your kids are smaller, then it becomes way, way easier as they are growing, because then you have blueprint, then you have understanding. I did it before. I adopted my behavior to the life reality I'm living. I will just be flexible, adjust myself to the new life circumstances. I don't know where did I hear this, like, I don't know, is it metaphor or story, but it's always kind of in my mind. I remember somewhere I heard it that the tree, which is big tree, fat tree, when the huge wind blows, it gets completely out of the roots. It pushes it out of the ground. But the long, thin, flexible grass, it waves on the wind. The wind just moves it, but it doesn't affect it and it doesn't push it out of the root. Try to become that flexible grass, to move and wave with the wind instead of being deeply affected by the wind, because wind will always come. But how you adapt to the wind, it's something that you have to decide for your life. That's all for today. I wish you a beautiful rest of the day until the next week. Bye.